Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Grace Holland. Next month, President-elect Donald Trump will take office, and his pledge to deport undocumented immigrants en masse has some immigrants seeking legal guidance ahead of his inauguration. Meanwhile, in Wilson County, clients of one immigration attorney have found him unreachable in an area where there are few options for this type of legal representation. WRAL Eastern North Carolina reporter Heidi Kirk joins me. Heidi, thanks for being here.
Hey, Grace.
So this is like a really interesting story you've been following here. So how did you find out about this attorney being hard to reach, and how long has this been going on for?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, it has been so fascinating. And I found this story the way that we do so many, which is through social media. I do my daily scroll through Facebook pretty much every morning, and I started to notice dozens of people taking to social media and saying they've essentially been, quote unquote, ghosted by their attorney, which, I could probably think of better phrasing for that, but that's essentially what's happened. They haven't heard from an attorney that they hired for immigration work for weeks, months. Some people even said more than 6 months. They haven't heard from their attorney. We spoke with one woman, her name's April Banton. She said that she paid her attorney, close to $4,000 and had been working with him for weeks. And all of the sudden, he essentially dropped off the face of the earth.
I put my trust in him, and then he just left us hanging.
And so, it's something that naturally sparked our attention, given the amount of people that we heard from. Even though we only interviewed one, there were dozens who left him reviews on his page, went to the building where he works in downtown Wilson and were asking questions. And it's one of those stories that, unfortunately, we still don't have a much of a resolution for. There's still a lot of questions hanging out there.
Yeah, and just to be clear, who is this guy? What's his name? And what was his attorney or his law firm called? And do we know where he is at this point?
All very good questions. So his name is Juan Areola, and his practice is called the Areola Law Office. It's right in downtown Wilson, a very prominent location. Long story short, no, we do not know where he is at this time. We've contacted multiple agencies, including the Wilson Police Department, to see, if they have received any missing persons reports. They have told us that they're looking into it, but that's kind of the latest update that we received from them. And, as journalists, it's our job to also try to make contact on our own. So that's what I've done. I reached out to the attorney himself via his phone number. I got his voicemail, so I do know that I had a correct way of reaching him. I emailed him, texted him, called him. I also made an attempt to visit the address that was listed online for his home. We also went by his business multiple times. It's been an ongoing story that we've been following now for a couple weeks. One of the things that was interesting is that whenever I went to the Areola Law Office, we found an eviction notice on the door dated November 14th. So it's clear that he's been at least out of that building for a couple of weeks now and potentially missing for longer than that.
And so with these agencies that are looking at this, what action can be taken if they're able to find him, to get people their money back?
Well, I mentioned one, the Wilson Police Department, and they didn't provide us a ton of information. Essentially, like I said, all that they provided us was, we're looking into it. We're essentially investigating this situation, but there's no more information to provide at this time. And it's something that I followed up on a number of times, but there's no more information to share as of now. And another agency that I didn't mention is the North Carolina State Bar. Obviously, that's the agency that oversees all of the law firms and the attorneys in our state. And when I reached out, we got kind of a generic statement, and I want to read it to you. They said, the State Bar is aware of the situation. However, the existence of a non-existence of a disciplinary investigation is confidential unless there's public action taken on the matter. And so essentially what that means is, first of all, they can't let us know even if they are investigating. And second of all, unless someone from the public has come forward and taken some sort of legal, formal action that, there's nothing that they can share with us about that. And so, we're not sure still to this point, even though we followed up a number of times to try to figure out if there's been any developments over the weeks that we've been covering this, and there hasn't been. But something that did put my mind at ease and the minds of, some of the people that we spoke with over the phone, we've interviewed, we've talked to about this situation in general. This is something that the spokesperson that I talked to at the North Carolina State Bar said. They said that they maintain a client security fund. So what is that? That's essentially a fund that they have that is specifically to reimburse clients who suffered any sort of financial loss at the result of a dishonest conduct of an attorney, a lawyer engaged in a private practice in our state. So that's pretty interesting. And, while they couldn't say we're dipping into that fund or, this investigation could lead to clients being reimbursed, they said, if this lawyer, Juan Areola, is found to be dishonest and harmed his clients in that way, that they could be reimbursed. So, it doesn't tell us much, but it does tell us that there is some sort of fund out there that could help out in the event that an investigation uncovers that there was wrongdoing here.
Okay, let's take a quick break right there. And when we come back, we're going to talk about where we go from here. Heidi, before the break, you were talking about how this all started for you when you saw lots of clients of the Areola Law Office talking online about not being able to get in touch with him. I wonder, what is your sense of the larger what is the larger picture for people seeking an immigration attorney in that part of the state right now?
Well, Grace, let me tell you, it's honestly really sad. This is a region that is a legal desert in some ways, and that is especially the case for immigration attorneys. There's really not a whole lot of them. In fact, I did some investigating because I did research online, and I was curious, how many are there in the region? And I found that the Areola Law Office was the only firm practicing immigration law full-time in the region. And now that's gone. So there's obviously a huge hole to fill. And so, from there, I did more research, what is the larger picture here? And the larger picture is that it's a region with a lot of immigrants, and now they don't have any sort of attorney to represent them. And of course, Wilson's just outside of the Research Triangle Park. We have, lots of different cities and towns that do have those resources. But for an entire county to really not have a full-time attorney at this time, it's awful. And it means that there's a lot of people out there that are going to be seeking resources that just don't have them available in their back door.
And you met someone who says she wants to be a part of the solution. She heard about what was going on with this law office closing. What's her story?
Well, this is the silver lining here. So I met Jancel Melendez. She is actually someone who works full-time at the Wesley Shelter, which is a domestic violence response agency in Wilson. She lives in the area. But what makes her unique is that at her core, she is an attorney. And even though she, works for this domestic violence agency right now, at her core, this is something that she's done for a long time, practiced as a lawyer. And, from time to time, she has taken on immigration cases because that's her specialty. She's actually from Puerto Rico. She's, well aware, especially of the Hispanic community in this region. And she essentially said as soon as she heard about the Areola Law Office closing that she had to do more. And, even though she really seems to like her job, she's invested in this community, she said, I need to do something. And that means potentially, taking on a little bit more than an immigration case here or there when I feel like I can take it onto my plate. So she said, you know what, I'm going to open my own office. So I actually had the chance to go visit her new space, which is also in downtown Wilson. Actually, funny enough, just blocks away from where the Areola Law Office closed down. And, she's going to be doing this part-time. She doesn't want to quit her full-time job, which she loves, but she's going to do it in a little bit of a more formal way. She's going to take on some of those clients that were kind of left high and dry by this attorney. She's going to be, marketing herself as an immigration attorney in the region. She said, eventually there could be a world in which she decides to do this full-time. But for her, it really is a calling. It's something she's kind of always wanted to do. She believes it's important. She's connected to the community. She knows what it can be like whenever you're without an immigration lawyer. And she said, at the end of the day, say, it's a good thing for her. It's a chance for her to step up and help and advocate for these people that are in need.
Yeah, and of course the backdrop to all this, we mentioned it in the intro, is that, Trump has announced plans to do some mass deportations potentially once he's inaugurated. What impact does she think that those plans could have on her work?
Gosh, it could be a huge impact, and she's well aware of that. She said she's already heard from some people just in the capacity that she's working as an immigration attorney right now who are concerned about this. They're aware that, Trump has announced these huge policy shifts from, what we've had over the last few years, and they're worried. If they're not worried for themselves, they're worried about their family. They're worried that, they may be in a situation where the paperwork isn't as squared away as they thought, and they want to get at least an opinion from an immigration attorney. And so it comes at a really unfortunate time. As of now, as far as she's aware, as far as we're aware, she is the only immigration attorney in Wilson County. And, given, the amount of people that have already come to her and announced their concern about the new administration and their plans for immigration, there's going to be more people who need immigration attorneys. So she expects to be very, very busy. And, she told me very frankly, she said, I'm worried. She's like, I'm worried about the effect this could have on my own mental health.
I don't want to be never in a position that someone's life or family union is disrupted because I didn't do my job correctly, because it's going to be a lot. But then I'll stay grounded. I've prayed about it, I'll stay grounded. And the most important is be truthful to who you are and to your services. That if you see that you're taking too much that you can, then be like, unfortunately, I can't. I already have a huge workload. I have to refer you out. And hopefully they will understand.
She said she made a few calls to other attorneys who have practices outside of Wilson and the Greater Triangle region, and she basically told them, we need you in Eastern North Carolina. Aside from Wilson, all of these areas, they're very agricultural communities, which means there's a lot of immigrants who have moved to this region, and, we're hurting across the board as far as immigration attorneys goes. And so, she views this as her calling. She wants to make sure that, Trump's mass deportation plans, don't stop her from doing what she's doing and really stepping up and helping this community in any way that she can.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Heidi. We'll be watching your reporting on this closely over the next few months. And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.